Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about this absolutely insane consent decree that was dropped on the state of Maryland by the Department of Justice after they alleged in a 2-year-long lawsuit that the state troopers for Maryland were engaged in evil white racism, discrimination against black people and black women together as a combined group by having physical fitness requirements and a written test that included, and I'm not kidding about this, 5th grade level math. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division is considered to be evil white racism when you're applying for a job as a state trooper in the state of Maryland. It's madness in every possible way, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
In 2022, the DOJ announced it was opening an investigation into Maryland State Police's hiring practices for potential violations of Title VII, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, sex, or religion. This is what Maryland's U.S. attorney told us about the possible outcome of the investigation then.
For the agency involved and those who are employed and those who are looking for opportunities with the agency, any unfair practices will cease. And ongoing, there'll be fair employment practices for everybody.
So right off the top, I think it is very important for you guys to understand that a lot of people go into this kind of thing with the mindset that a cop is a cop is a cop. But the fact of the matter is, your police department or your sheriff's department is completely different from your state troopers. And the reason why is because of the structure of these particular agencies. First and foremost, state troopers act as the equivalent of a Secret Service agent for your governor. So they are meant to be in better physical shape. They're meant to deal with different aspects of law than your regular local law enforcement. And on top of that, unlike regular police officers, they tend to go out alone more often than they go out with a partner. And because they go out alone, because they don't always have somebody at their back, because there isn't as many paperwork positions or desk jobs for them to operate in, they have historically required a greater physical fitness. Most state troopers actually require a physical fitness exam every 2 years, minimum, up until the age of about 45 or 20 years of service in the state troopers department. So because of that, they just happen to have more men than women, and it makes perfect sense. Again, like I said, your regular ordinary police officers tend to be larger, more overweight, tend to have more women, but your state troopers are a bit above that. They're a bit more elite, and you could see that by comparing the training that they go through versus your regular ordinary officers.
Are you up for the challenge? Put your body to the test. It's the first Maryland's Finest Fitness Challenge at the State Police Training Academy in Sykesville.
We're actually demonstrating what would be happening for a day in the life of a candidate who actually joined the academy, just to see sort of the grueling physical aspect.
It's far from easy. You start with a run, then onto some body weight exercises.
Down. You've heard of burpees, which, sound really terrible, and they kind of are, but they're great.
Yeah, 50 of those. Then 40 push-ups, 30 squats, 20 sit-ups, and 10 squat jumps.
And once you get halfway, don't give up. The top 200 finishers will get a t-shirt to take home. Not just any t-shirt. This is going to prove your accomplishment.
Keep going. You've still got 50 Russian jumping jacks, 40 push-ups, 30 squats, 20 sit-ups, and 10 more burpees. Finally, a 3/4 mile run uphill, and you are done.
It's definitely going to be a challenge for everybody, and everybody that participates, it's going to be their own individual race.
However, the Department of Justice has decided that that's just sexism. That's honestly just anti-woman nonsense, and the fact that you require people who go out alone, who end up confronting dangers without backup, more physical fitness, is just your sexism showing, and no, I'm not kidding about that.
The Justice Department is announcing that we have secured a consent decree to resolve our findings that Maryland State Police discriminated against Black and female applicants by using hiring tests that unfairly and unlawfully excluded them from employment. Under this agreement, the police will adopt new tests, extend priority hiring opportunities to previously disqualified applicants after they complete the new and lawful selection process, and distribute $2.75 million in relief to people unfairly disqualified by the old test.
Now look, the physical fitness test is obvious, and already I have a major problem with this Department of Justice consent decree just based on that, but it's important for you guys to understand that the Department of Justice is also alleging that a rudimentary math test that was included in the written portion of the exam is evil, white, and racist due to the fact that there were disparate outcomes. And again, this is one of the major problems with that disparate outcome standard. You can give the same test to two people, but because of the averages ending up not working out in the way that the Department of Justice likes, they can say that the gap is actually evil, white, racism. So with the fitness exam, because less women were passing it, that's evil sexism, even though, again, it's the same standard for both, even though a state trooper, more than any other regular ordinary police officer, requires a certain level of physical fitness. They say it doesn't matter because disparate outcomes automatically equal discrimination under the DOJ's framework. Well, the same is true for these rudimentary written tests. And by the way, the numbers on this, just so you guys can understand, are as follows. So you have this basic math test. There's also a reading component to it, but I really want to harp on the math because we have some of the questions. And according to the DOJ, about 30% of black applicants, I believe it's around 29, failed this test. And when I say failed this test, I need you guys to understand that they would have had to have failed it 4 times to be excluded as candidates for the police. By comparison, about 9% of white applicants failed this test. And again, in order for them to be disqualified from them being able to be hired as a state trooper, they would have had to have failed out 4 times before they were DQ'd. And you only needed 70%. So the state of Maryland wants their troopers to be physically fit, which I think makes perfect sense. Again, a state trooper is a different cut of officer from your regular police department or your regular sheriff's department. And in addition to that, they also want you to be a C student on a 5th grade math exam if you're given 4 chances. But apparently, that's too much. Apparently, that's evil white racism. And don't take it from me, take it from the Department of Justice, who spent 2 years on this case.
Our investigation found that Maryland State Police's hiring practices for entry-level troopers violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, sex, color, national origin, or religion. The old hiring tests that prompted the investigation here did not distinguish between candidates who could successfully perform the job of a trooper and those who could not. This made the test not just ineffective, but unlawful.
So this is the best argument put forward by the DOJ in this particular case. Even though we're talking about a 5th grade level math test, even though you had 4 opportunities in order to pass this 5th grade level math test, even though you are only required to get a C on this 5th grade level math test, the fact of the matter is, according to the DOJ, being good at math at a 5th grade level, being average at math for a 5th grader, does not actually aid your ability to be a state trooper. And I'm gonna say, you know what? If you buy into that argument and that is your rationale for supporting them getting rid of this portion of the written exam, then I'm not going to argue too hard with you because that is the best case. That is the steel man position of the DOJ. That being said, I've seen the questions, so I'm kind of really biased on this because this test is not only easy, but I actually think that maybe you shouldn't be able to work at McDonald's if you can't pass it, let alone be able to carry a gun, let alone be able to protect the governor, let alone be able to do all of the things that state troopers are supposed to do. That's just me. I'm just saying, I don't care if you're a physical beast. I think there is a bare minimum intelligence requirement, and you not being able to pass this test is very alarming. Again, bring your children in the room and let's go over the math test because we have some of the questions and you guys have to see them. You have to understand what I'm talking about, why I'm so animated about this. So question 1 is as follows. On Tuesday, Officer Jones worked a 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift. At 10:55, he was called to the scene of an accident where he remained until 1:30 a.m. How long past his regular shift did Officer Jones work? And your options are A, 55 minutes, B, 1 hour and 50 minutes, C, 2 hours, D, 2 hours and 30 minutes, or E, 3 hours and 5 minutes. Now you might be thinking to yourself, whoa, Sean, that's not the question. That's literally a 5th grade math test. That can't actually be the question. And I assure you, this is the question. This is question 1 on the test. And while you guys might think it's easy, by the way, the answer is 2 hours and 30 minutes for those of you taking the test at home. You should have gotten it as I was reading the question. I didn't even need to read all the answers. And there's a number of reasons why, one of which is that this question is even easier than you could possibly imagine, because obviously the objective of this is for you to find the difference between 1:30 a.m. and 11 p.m. And obviously, if you're finding the difference between 1:30 a.m. and 11 p.m., the answer has to end in a 30-minute mark. Well, guess what? Only one of these answers could possibly be true. There's not even a trip you up kind of answer in the multiple choice because only one ends with 30 minutes. That's how easy this is. Now, there's a little tricky trick with the 1055 in the question. Maybe you were thrown off on that. Maybe you need to get beyond the 3rd grade in order to see past those kind of questions. But obviously the answer is clearly 2 hours and 30 minutes. There is no other option. It's not even confusing. And again, this is question 1. Maybe they get significantly harder. Maybe they get confusing. Maybe they completely throw you off in the next set of questions, which we are going to go into so you guys can see what the hell I'm talking about. Questions 2 and 3 are based on the following information. In preparing her report on a home burglary, a police officer listed the following stolen items and their value. Stolen item number 1 is a television set at $400, a radio for $40, stereo equipment for $1,500, a gold chain for $100. What is the total value of the stolen goods? So first of all, the answer is B. And not only should you guys already know that, but you should have already figured out the answer for question 3, which I haven't read yet, if you're watching this video, because it's that rudimentary. That being said, at least in this particular set of questions, we have 2 answers that end in $40 because obviously this question has to have a dollar amount that ends in $40 because one of the things is a $40 amount for the radio and everything else ends in $100. So yeah, at least there's 2 here to kind of throw you off, but there is no way in hell that this could be $28.40. So yeah, let's just be clear about that. It's obviously B. Obviously. Let's move on. Again, if you had 4 times to take this test and you failed it, you shouldn't be working at McDonald's. You shouldn't be working anywhere. And I know there's struggles in the Baltimore public school system, not just the state of Maryland, but I'm going Baltimore specifically, where they have all these different school districts where no one is proficient in math. But I would say if you can't pass an 8th grade standardized math test in the Baltimore public schools, you still should be able to understand that the answer is B. Now, by the way, question 3 says, what was the value of all the stolen goods except the gold chain? And obviously the answer is D here. But I just want to point out that you should be able to use question 3 to determine that it has to be B. And the reason why is the gold chain is minus $100 and D is exactly $100 less than answer B. And I don't believe, except for A and C from the original 2 questions, that you have another drop of just $100. This should aid you in eliminating all possible options, including D, which is the only other answer in question 2 that ends in $40. Now, I apologize for explaining how you can use one question in a test to answer a previous question in the test so you can get both of them right, because what I'm using is a test-taking tactic, deductive reasoning, logical thinking, and obviously all of those things that I just displayed for you guys out there in the audience is evil white racism, because how dare you expect your basic state troopers to be able to use deductive reasoning to get around basic arithmetic that is also racist for you to expect them to actually understand. But we need to go on. We need to go to the next questions because you guys need to understand how bad this actually is. Question 4. A police officer is called to an accident scene across town from his present location. If he has to travel 2 miles on Grant Road, 3 miles on Route 47, and 12 miles on Interstate 70, how many miles does he have to travel in order to get to the accident scene? So first of all, let's be 100% clear about this. The answer is A. Anybody who didn't get A, I don't know what you guys want from me. I don't know. Do you want to sign up for my tutoring lessons for me to explain to you why it's A? But that being said, I actually do have an issue with the way that this question is structured, because they use 2 written out as 2, then they use 3 written out as 3, and then they use 17 written out in its numeric form. And I just like to have some consistency in the way that you're portraying each and every one of these numbers. If you're going to try to confuse people, you confuse people, but you don't need to use the different spellings or whatever. You're testing reading and math, and obviously that's too complicated, and the Department of Justice is going to deem that evil white racism. But yeah, the answer is obviously Obviously A. Anybody who didn't get A, I don't know what you want from me. You shouldn't be a state trooper. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna put it out there. The DOJ is wrong. The next question is, an appliance store is burglarized and 21 clock radios with a total value of $1,050 are stolen. What is the average value of the radios? Now your options are A, $10.50, B, $50, C, $55, D, $105.50, E, $22,050. So obviously what we have right here is a rudimentary division problem. You divide 21 into 1,050 and you end up getting $50. Other ways for you to be able to solve this is for you to understand that 50 times 20 is going to be $1,000. Add one more and then you get $10.50. Perfectly easy for you to understand that the average value in this particular scenario is $50, but at least some of the answers to this question are close enough that they might throw you off, except for the one that is $22,000. Not exactly sure how you would get that at all if you messed up this equation, but again, this is a rudimentary math problem, although I will say this one a little bit harder. Maybe we went from 5th grade to 6th grade, or maybe just like 5th grade, but not the first day of 5th grade, maybe like the 3rd day of 5th grade with the math problem right there with this one. I actually had to think about it for a fraction of a second in order to understand what was actually factually correct as the answer right here. Again, if you didn't get this, maybe you can't be a police officer. I'm just saying, maybe you can't be a state trooper. Maybe you could be a sheriff's deputy. Not trying to throw any shade over there, but a sheriff is elected, so then he could deputize people. So, maybe you could do that. But you can't be a state trooper. I can't trust you to protect the governor if you can't do basic arithmetic, basic division. Now look, there are other components of this test. There are written questions that I think are very, very simple as well, but I'm not really going to get into them because part of the Department of Justice's claim is that this written test has material that is not related to your duty as being a state trooper, and therefore it's discriminatory, and the math section specifically would appear to be the least related to the actual day-to-day duties of the job. When you go into the reading comprehension, a lot of this seems more related to being police officers. There's stuff about how you should fill out forms, how you should fill out police reports. Obviously, that is directly connected to your position as a state trooper, but the fact of the matter is, this is the level we're at in terms of racial discrimination in this country. This is what is being labeled evil white racism, despite the fact that I actually don't think it's a crazy idea to require a bare minimum amount of education and skill before we give you a firearm and tell you to go shoot people up. And again, the reason I'm emphasizing education and skill is they're also cracking down on the physical fitness portion of this because they don't want you to be as physically fit as you need to be in order to be a state trooper.
The underrepresentation of Black and female applicants in law enforcement undermines public safety.
Look, I'm just going to say it. She is 100% wrong in her assessment. She couldn't be more wrong and embarrassingly so in what she just said right there. Underrepresentation of female state troopers does not in any way, shape, or form threaten public safety. In fact, hiring women that can't pass the physical fitness test that you actually need in order to be a state trooper, that is a threat to physical safety. That is a threat to our society. Giving these people who can't pass basic math tests, who don't show basic reasoning skills, a gun and a badge and hiring them on board just because you don't like the outcome, that is a threat to public safety. On top of that, what she's saying, what she's advocating for, is a threat to equality as well.
Runs contrary to the principle of equal opportunity and fails to reflect the rich racial and gender diversity of our communities. The Justice Department will continue its work to ensure equal access to employment opportunities for all Americans.
So she's trying to make the claim that different outcomes are by its very nature proof of unequal opportunity, when the fact of the matter is, everybody had an equal opportunity in order to pass this test. Again, nobody is crying about the 10% of white applicants that failed this rudimentary math, and nobody should be crying for them. They shouldn't be police officers either. But what she's saying is that disparate outcome, not ending up in the same place, which is equal outcome, which is equity, is inherently flying in the face of equal opportunity. The whole point of supposedly having this equal opportunity is that you succeed or fail on your own merits, and where you end up is on you. But she's saying exactly the opposite of that. And that's why this decision is so embarrassing. And the state of Maryland just threw away public safety in order to satiate the DOJ. And I understand it. They have money from the federal government. The feds can print their own money. The state budgets aren't unlimited. So you're going to have to settle in these circumstances because they'll just keep running up the costs. But obviously it was wrong to do so. Obviously this so-called discrimination isn't existent. It is reasonable discrimination for the physical fitness. And I would also say not knowing these basic 5th grade math problems is a huge problem if you're an officer, and I'm expecting you to reason on your own without a partner on the fly. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute madness out of Maryland. Till next time.